So what drew you to create that documentary? It's entitled Journey.
Yes.
And how did you meet Julie, and what was the origin of that?
So Julie and I became sort of email pen pals. I was working at the Center for Southeast Asian Studies, which is just upstairs on the 11th floor. And there was a book publication celebration by two Cham authors by the last name of Do Hamid. And it was called Bangsa Champa, which means the Champa race or the Champa people. So they put together a book that sort of documents our recent history. It was published in Vietnamese. And again, they're very well respected Cham scholars in our community. So when the book was published, I want to say in 2004, in the fall, I posted it on the Center for Southeast Asian Studies website because it's so rare to see anything published about our community, and let alone by actual Cham people. So I just thought it was really neat, so I posted it. And then I get an email from this Julie T. Underhill. I'm like, who's this Julie T. Underhill? And she wrote me and said, oh my God, do you have any information about this? I'm actually in Oregon. I won't be able to make it out, but you don't know how excited I am about this because my mom is Cham and I live in Oregon, and my whole life I've been trying to just kind of understand where our people come from. And that's how we bonded. And it literally turned out to be a lifelong friendship. And then I got to know her own. She does amazing, Julie's so talented. She does amazing photography work and also film work. So that's how I got to know her, was just sort of learning about her and eventually collaborating on the project called Journey. And we also started a documentary, which we have yet to finish, about some just Cham survivors of the Khmer Rouge genocide when we were there in 2012 during the UN tribunals for the Khmer Rouge. So that's how we got to know each other. We just became like forever pen pals.
You know, one of the striking things in that piece, well, there's several things, but one is she points out that at one point you guys were officially extinct, and how she was like horrified. And then
yes.
is the whole thing about the reburial. That's a very moving part of the film. Can you explain both phenomena?
Sure. Yeah, I just, and a lot of, I like that you use the word phenomenon, because it is kind of a phenomenon, because we both grew up and people are telling you like, you're dead, your people don't exist, and that's how it was. People say like, oh, the Cham people, they used to rule part of Central and South Vietnam, but they're gone now. And it's like, wait a minute, but we're here, right? So that's how it was explained to her. And in Journey, I think she talks about that, how she picks up like an encyclopedia and they're like, they write about you as if you're dead and your entire community is wiped out. Because in theory, we're supposed to be through all of the genocide and the wars, but the fact is we're not, because I'm sitting right here as a Cham person, right? And I myself have experienced that in certain circles where people are giving lectures about Southeast Asia and the region and the territory. Yeah, in fact, one of my experiences was sitting in a class where someone was talking about Southeast Asian history and different languages that people speak, and I was with like my friends in college, and they said, you have to raise your hand and say you speak Cham. It's just gonna totally throw off this person, I said, no, I don't, because then we have to get into the history, and they're like, it's really important you say this. So they literally like do the typical like elbow me and my hand flies up, and the professor goes, oh, what language do you speak? And I said, I speak Cham. And he literally stopped talking and was like, just like could not even contain himself. And my friends are like trying not to laugh because they were doing it to egg me on the whole time. And he says, oh, you speak a forgotten language. And then he goes, oh, could you tell the class a little bit about, the Cham people? And so, of course, you feel very put on the spot. And at the same time, I was just told I speak about a forgotten language. Yeah, I speak it. And I'm sitting here in the early 2000s. You know what I mean? So a lot of Cham people have felt that, where it's this vexed relationship of existing, right, against the background or argument of not existing, because we aren't supposed to exist, yet we exist because we do, and because we're so small and people don't know about us or write about us or produce things about us. We have to basically do it ourselves and articulate that we're still alive, because no one else is going to do that. You know, that was a very tumultuous time for a lot of our parents in that generation that escaped the war and had to either choose. It was either like survive and leave everything you've ever known, including your family, or not survive. You know, and it's so many immigrant and war-torn communities have been through this. And I think for Julie's mom and her family, that was a really tough choice she had to make, because she had family there and she had her daughters, right? But she, you know, met Julie's father, and had to figure out, like, okay, do I leave to go to America to survive, because now I have like these mixed race children, right? And no one knew what would happen to the mixed race children after the communists took over when they won the war. So yeah, Julie's mom had to leave, and then it was, you know, and she had to, when Julie's grandmother passed away, I guess she made the tough decision to not go back at the time, but yet Julie sort of, you know, Julie made the trip, and then by the time her mom did make it back, it was to kind of do that reburial ceremony, which is a very important tradition in the Cham community that Julie comes from, the people that really practice the Hindu and sort of that ancestral honoring. My immediate family, because we have adopted the Muslim tradition, we don't do that, but I find it very fascinating to kind of learn more about the Cham families that did that. So that's what Julie's mom essentially did, was to give her mother, Julie's grandmother, the proper respect, because in that tradition, your spirit is kind of stuck until you can have that ceremony to be one with the rest of your ancestors. So they were finally able to do that for her. And I think, you know,